On that day, the weather was especially dismal, with dark clouds and a heavy downpour. Amid the chaotic noise, a man lay crushed beneath a metal structure, surrounded by a pool of his own blood. As his consciousness slipped away, he regretted the life he had led. Plagued by bad luck, his existence had been a series of unfortunate events. To his astonishment, his prayers were heard and he reincarnated as a baby, obtaining a new chance to live a meaningful life as Siegbert von Abel. After his death, Sieg was transported to a different plane. As far as the eye could see, only an empty white space existed. The confused Sieg was approached by a man wearing a suit, who introduced himself as the keeper of life and death. He remarked that Sieg's life had been a series of unfortunate events. In the end, he was crushed by a steel pole that fell off a building under construction. The keeper hurriedly apologized with a smile and told Sieg not to worry. In exchange for his unfortunate life, Sieg would be reincarnated to a whole new world and receive various benefits to help him. With a snap of his fingers, the keeper produced a huge contract and handed it to Sieg. The keeper continued explaining that the blessing of reincarnation would provide Sieg all sorts of benefits. He would retain and carry over his previous life's memories and would be able to understand the language of the world easily. Sieg could not keep up with the pace of the keeper's explanation and was left with even more questions, wondering if the keeper was an eccentric salesman. Last but not least, the keeper demonstrated a very special benefit that would be given to Sieg: appraisal eyes. Normally, they were eyes that could judge and evaluate whatever the user was seeing. Moreover, since Sieg's case was a special one, the keeper did not explain how powerful the ability he would receive would be. Sieg found the keeper suspicious, but could not really do anything about it. Since the explanation was over, without further ado, the keeper guided Sieg towards the final part, the Reincarnation World Lottery. Sieg was hesitant and wanted an explanation, but as the keeper pushed him forward, he had no choice but to spin the lottery wheel. It spun and a golden marble fell onto the tray, emitting a shining light. Sieg was unsure if he had won or lost. Given his luck, he suspected he had drawn a bad one. With a snap of his fingers, the keeper made a hole appear beneath Sieg's feet, sending him into an endless fall. The smiling face of the keeper as he wished him a good life was his previous life's final memory. Back to the present, Leah held him in her arms, gently rocking him, and remarked about his widely opened eyes. It was because Sieg could see everything clearly, unlike normal newborns, and recognized the woman who was holding him to be her mother. Sieg's father, Gilbert, tried to touch him but was warned by the old maid in charge of Leah's health. Thus, Gilbert took extra care not to hurt Sieg as he rubbed his head. Sieg wanted to find out who he was and what kind of world he had been reincarnated to as fast as possible, but he was still just a baby, lacking the ability to talk or walk. Based on the clothing that the people around him wore, he could tell that the world was quite different from what he was used to. Sieg recalled the keeper's words about magic and the special benefits he would receive as a blessing. One of these benefits was the appraisal eyes. Believing he could uncover some information by using them, Sieg decided to try them out immediately. Since he lacked the ability to speak to chant, he chose to sense the skill instead. Seeing him energetically flail his arms, his parents smiled, thinking he was simply in a good mood. In fact, the moment he had activated appraisal eyes, an interface of multiple windows appeared before his eyes. Sieg's eyes shone as he looked at all the mysterious things with a childlike curiosity. He was excited at being able to activate his appraisal eyes. On the windows, Sieg's name and age was listed, along with multiple other elements that he did not fully understand. Sieg was delighted to know that he possessed affinity for all types of magic attributes. However, his attention was caught by his stats. 200 luck appeared low to him, considering his bad luck in the previous life. Moreover, if 200 luck was low, then his other stats were remarkably lower, being 20 times less than his luck except magic. Before he could dwell on his speculations further, the door to the room opened and two kids appeared, shouting Sieg's name. They were Theovolt and Ariane, Sieg's older brother and sister, respectively. The old maid scolded the two of them for shouting, saying that Sieg and Leah both required rest and should not be disturbed. Theo and Ariane apologized for causing a ruckus. They were just overly excited to see Sieg for the first time. Leah chuckled and told the kids to come over and greet Sieg. Both Theo and Arian couldn't help but find Sieg adorable and beautiful, thanks to his silver hair and purple eyes, just like Leah's. For baby Sieg, Theo's big hand approaching seemed quite threatening. He could only hope that Theo would be gentle and grabbed Theo's thumb with his small hand. Theo was excited and touched by this small gesture. Arian felt jealous and also wanted Sieg to hold her hand. Arian expressed her desire to play with Sieg, wanting to dress him in cute clothes and line him up with her dolls since he looked like one. Theo tried to protest, arguing that Sieg was a boy and might not enjoy that, but Arian was unwavering. Observing his cheerful and energetic older siblings, Sieg dreaded how they might play around with him. Noticing the discomfort on his face, Arian immediately panicked and apologized for being loud. She gently rubbed his cheeks, trying to calm him down. Arian wanted to create many happy memories with everyone. She confessed her love to Sieg and thanked him for being born, her eyes filled with affection. Leah and Gilbert smiled as they watched their kids bond with each other. Given his past misfortunes, Sieg found it hard to believe that everyone in his family was so warm and loving. He was deeply grateful to have been born into this family. Leah addressed Gilbert and inquired if Willie would conduct the initial appraisal for their newborn son tomorrow. Gilbert's expression turned serious as he nodded. After what had happened with Gerd, he no longer trusted the appraisers. Hearing unfamiliar names in the conversation, Sieg was confused. However, the kids were excited at the prospect of Willie coming to see them. Willie was a great knight who was always traveling around. Currently, he was out of the country on a mission, but would be able to make it back in time. Theo couldn't help but ask if Sieg really needed to go through the initial appraisal. He was afraid of the same thing happening as what happened with Gerd. As if sensing Sieg's confusion, Arian explained to him that Gerd was his older brother who was currently in the magic school. Initial appraisal was a custom practice for just born noble kids so that they could verify their elemental aptitude. That way they would learn magic power that suited their aptitude. If they did not have any magical aptitude, they would learn martial arts. It was an important practice that determined the training policies of the successor. Even though his father had explained the importance of the initial appraisal, Theo still felt hesitant. He was afraid that Sieg might possess advanced magic aptitude. Gerd had been forced to join the Magic Academy at the age of 5 and had cried a lot because he didn't want to be separated from his mother. This had all happened because the appraiser had disclosed Gerd's attributes. Gilbert patted his children's heads, assuring them that he would protect Sieg from a similar fate. He still regretted being unable to save Gerd at the time. Only after Gilbert swore this did Theo and Arian calm down. The baby Sieg, who had been listening to the conversation, intently felt a creeping sense of dread. The kids that were born with aptitude for advanced level magic were forced to attend the magic school. The problem was that Sieg possessed aptitude for advanced magic. He was certain of it thanks to the appraisal eyes he possessed. At this rate, he would be forced to attend magic school and the family would be sad. Moreover, he would spend all his time studying magic alone. Panic set in as Sieg wondered what he could do to avoid that fate. It seemed that even in another world, his bad luck was going strong. At nighttime, Sieg lay in his cradle and played around with his attribute window. After some testing, he realized that he was unable to delete the elements by himself and gave up on the futile attempts. He needed to do something about his advanced attributes before tomorrow. Just possessing one advanced magic was a problem, but if it were to be discovered that he possessed all of them, there was a high chance that his fate would be worse than confinement in a magic school. He might even be used as a lab rat for experiments. Furthermore, Sieg was told by the keeper that he was special. If something unusual about him were to be discovered, he did not even want to think about what would happen. Unable to think about any solutions, Sieg cried out for help. Fortunately, to his surprise, his cry for help was heard as a strange creature popped up and answered him. Sieg was surprised by the sudden appearance of the strange entity and barely managed to avoid screaming, lest he disturbed the sleeping maid that sat next to his cradle. The strange creature introduced itself as an explanation system, also known as Helper. It was ready to assist Sieg in clearing all his doubts. Helper explained that things Sieg could see with his appraisal eyes, but did not understand would be clarified by him. He further elaborated that the appraisal eyes in this world could only estimate abilities to a certain degree. However, Sieg possessed special appraisal eyes that could see detailed information. Aware of Sieg's predicament, Helper provided a suggestion to learn the concealment skill. It was possible to hide one's status by using concealment. Finally seeing a ray of hope, Sieg asked how he could use it. Unfortunately, since he had not acquired the skill, he was unable to use it as well. Furthermore, they were out of time as it was impossible to learn concealment by tomorrow. Sieg gave up. His new life was over before it had even started. However, all hope was not lost for Sieg yet. Helper pointed out that Sieg possessed the reincarnation blessing, which gave him 1,000 points. If he used these points, Sieg would be able to gain skills that were useful without too much effort. By using the 1,000 points that he had, he could acquire the highest grade concealment and would become able to hide himself from the special appraisal eyes. Sieg was amazed by the reincarnation blessing, which seemed to be more useful than he had imagined. However, 1,000 points was not a small number. If he were to use all of his points now, then learning an ability will take a lot of effort. Sieg hesitated for a moment after hearing this from Helper. He realized that it would be a waste to use all his points to obtain concealment skill, but he remembered his newly obtained family. Just the thought of his loved ones allowed Sieg to resolve himself. He did not care about the skills. Right now, his top priority was to reassure his family that loved him very much and ease their minds, as well as live a fulfilling life with them. Helper fell silent for a moment, before following his master's will and completing the process. The next day, a young man arrived and was enthusiastically welcomed by the servants of the house. He was Willibert, also famously known as the Red Scion and Gilbert's brother. Seeing the maids fawning over him, Gilbert couldn't help but retort at Willie for being so popular. Gilbert led Willie to the room where Lia waited along with Sieg. Willie greeted and complimented Lia, drawing a slight glare from his older brother, before turning his attention to the star of the day. He lifted Sieg into his arms and introduced himself as his uncle. Willie couldn't help but remark that Sieg's cuteness seemed wasted on a boy, a sentiment Lia and Gilbert shared. Since none of their other children had inherited Lia's hair and eyes, they were pleased that Sieg did. Without wasting any more time, Willie decided to go through with the initial appraisal. He reassured Sieg that it would not hurt and activated his appraisal eyes. Elemental symbols appeared around Sieg, visible only to Willie, and he let out a gasp of amusement. Meanwhile, Sieg was completely nervous and prayed desperately to be allowed to live in peace. According to Willie's analysis, Sieg possessed aptitudes for fire, wind, earth, water, and void. There were no signs of holy or light element. Additionally, Sieg also lacked the advanced attributes. Gilbert heaved a sigh of relief. Sieg was also delighted at the results of the appraisal. After acquiring concealment, he had discussed with Helper and decided not to have all attributes, even if they were lower-level attributes, and narrowed them down to 5 only. Light element, dark element, advanced attributes, blessings, and appraisal eyes. He made sure to conceal everything that was special about him. Willie informed Lia that Sieg had inherited her resistance to poison, paralysis, darkness, curses, and abnormal statuses. It was great news, as Sieg would be able to grow into a healthy boy thanks to these skills. Sieg intentionally did not conceal these abilities, considering them a gift from his mother. Feeling relieved, Sieg planned to express his gratitude to Helper later for all the assistance provided. To conclude the appraisal, Willie decided to check Sieg's body and magic. He was sure that Sieg would be excellent even in that regard. However, Sieg suspected that he might not be able to live up to everyone's expectations. After all, he knew best that his luck was atrocious. However, when Willie used appraisal eyes to check Sieg's stats, he was astonished by what he saw. Ethereal wings of light spread out from Sieg's back, stretching magnificently and illuminating the surroundings. Gilbert couldn't see the light wings, but he noticed the shock on Willie's face and asked about the situation with concern. There was only one conclusion that Willie could draw from the spectacle before him. Sieg was highly likely to be the chosen one. Color drained from Gilbert's face upon hearing that. Sieg also noticed that the situation was weird. Willie explained that when using the appraisal eyes, a person's fortune becomes visible in the form of wings. The people who were loved by God were called lucky ones and possessed huge fortunes. However, he had believed it to be only a fairy tale, at least until now. Sieg did not fully understand, but he could tell the situation had become dire. In addition to his fortune, Sieg also possessed a vast amount of magic power, more so than Willy himself when he was born. At this point, this was beyond Prodigy level. If knowledge about Sieg were to become public, the Ministry of Magic was sure to make a move. Those were the exact words Sieg dreaded. Even though he did not want his family to deal with all these troublesome matters, the situation was beyond his control. He could only wonder what would happen to him from now on. Sieg had a hard time believing that he was the lucky one, considering his terrible luck in his previous life. To elaborate a little more on the lucky one, a chance was given to those that God loved. It was said that one could even become a god if they had the power to seize the opportunity and benefit from it. With such an exceptional attribute, Sieg was sure to be used as an experimental subject by the Ministry of Magic if it were to become known. Gilbert clutched his forehead in frustration. He felt a headache just thinking about the safety of his son. Even though Sieg had tried his best to make sure that his family was not inconvenienced, he did not manage to succeed. The future was filled with uncertainty. In the tense atmosphere, Lia smiled brightly. She was really glad she could become the mother of such an amazing kid that was full of talent and even loved by the gods. She gently placed her hand on Gilbert and made a request for him to protect their son. Seeing the trust in Lia's eyes, Gilbert was able to gather his resolve and clear his thoughts. He promised her that no matter happened, he would make sure to protect Sieg, reassuring her that there was no need to worry. The main problem was the announcing of the result of the appraisal eyes. However, that could be resolved by simply announcing only the magic elements that Sieg possessed. Originally, announcing the result of initial appraisal of a noble was only to show off the prestige of the heir. Although it felt odd to hide the magic power, it was not really important to announce it. Many nobles often chose not to announce their magic power too. Additionally, the magic power and luck possessed by Sieg was not really visible by simply looking at him. Seeing his brother's worries not fading away, Willy reassured him that there would not be any problems. If the number one knight who protects the country announced it, no one would doubt his words. After all, Gilbert was also widely trusted by the country folk. As for the magical affinities that Sieg possessed, they were almost the same as Willy when he was a kid, so he proposed for Gilbert to contact Father to ask how to deal with it. That way, the Ministry of Magic would refrain from making a move. Sieg was surprised by how quickly the heavy atmosphere was resolved. He was really lucky to have such a reliable family. With a plan for the future in mind, Lia and Gilbert decided to keep the matter about Sieg a secret between the three of them. However, Willy made a slight correction in that statement. There were actually 5 people present at the moment. Seeing Gilbert and Lia's surprise, Willy called out to the door and asked them to come inside. The door opened slowly, revealing Ariane and Theo. Much to the surprise of Gilbert, they sheepishly walked in as they were caught doing something they should not have. Even when directed by the stern gaze of Willy, the 2 siblings tried to cover for each other, taking the full responsibility upon themselves. Seeing their behavior, Willy smiled. He understood that they did not harbor any bad intentions and were only worried about Sieg. The teachers at the magic school were excited about the initial appraisal of Sieg and expected to see another special student. As such, if Sieg had any advanced elements, Theo and Ariane planned to persuade their father not to announce the result. Lia reassured the 2 that there was no need to worry. Gilbert would try his best to protect Sieg after all. The sibling duo was relieved as they sighed. Sieg was left speechless as he held back his tears. He felt truly blessed to have been given such a caring family. Willy shook his head. Since Theo and Ariane had already heard it, there was not anything he could do about it except make them promise to never reveal the secret to anyone. Willy's words left the 2 siblings desperately nodding their heads in unison. Not only them, even Sieg could feel a threatening aura exuding from Willy. It appeared that his uncle was a pretty scary person. Gilbert also took Theo and Ariane in his embrace and praised them for their thoughtfulness. He was proud of their kind hearts. After that, with the help of Willy and the others, only Sieg's elements were announced to the public and the Ministry of Magic did not come to take him. In the end, Sieg was only left with one question. Why did he become the lucky one despite being super unlucky throughout his previous life? A few months later, it was an ordinary day like any other. Much to Sieg's surprise, Helper explained to him the reason behind his bad luck in his previous life. Apparently, it was due to an error. When he salvaged through Sieg's memories and checked his status of the previous life, he discovered that someone had overwritten his luck to an abnormally low value. Sieg dying in an accident in his previous life was definitely due to his bad luck. To cover up the situation, the Keeper of Life and Death forced Sieg to reincarnate. It was uncertain whether it was intentional or not, but there was a high chance that all of Sieg's special blessings and benefits were to compensate for that. Sieg felt his anger rise as he remembered thanking the Keeper for the blessing. It was all a setup from the start. In any case, it seemed that Sieg had been the lucky one from the beginning, even in his previous life. Helper materialized a buzzer and repeatedly hit it like a game show host, announcing that Sieg had come to the correct conclusion. Startled by the sudden loud noise, Sieg remarked that Helper had a very distinct and peculiar personality, despite claiming to be a help function. Helper evaded the comment and changed the topic, asking Sieg about all the books scattered around him. These were elementary-level magic books. The maid seemed puzzled by the baby who was engrossed in books, but being surrounded by books made Sieg calmer, so they left him be. Whenever they stopped supervising him, Sieg would learn magic with his language mastery skill. Being a bookworm in his previous life, Sieg felt excited by the prospect of reading so many books, though the fact that he was also learning magic served as a huge factor for that excitement. These past few months, Sieg had learned a lot about magic. There were 12 elements in total. To use magic of any type, a person needed to have aptitude for that type. Fortunately, Sieg had aptitude for all types of magic, advanced or normal. The power of the magic depended on the user's magical power, but the most important thing was visualization. If he were to just vaguely visualize the magic, it would not activate. The clearer the visualization, the better the magic would work. That was why even the same magic would differ from person to person. Today, Sieg was trying to learn the beginner-level light magic, luminance. It was a magic that illuminated the darkness. The first step was to let the magic flow through the entire body and then visualize. Sieg focused and imagined a dark road illuminated by fireflies. When he opened his eyes, he was surrounded by a breathtaking spectacle of light. Sieg's eyes sparkled at the light surrounding him. This was just the first step in learning magic for him. Many more amazing magics awaited him. Pumped up, Sieg decided to create even more light. This time, he changed the image in his mind and tried to imitate a light bulb shining brightly. Unexpectedly, a very bright light enveloped the entire room. The light was so bright that it could be seen even from outside the house. His head spinning, Sieg struggled to stand by using the bed frame as support. Since he had more magic than most people, he had been careless. If someone had noticed it, it would become difficult to explain. Just when he was heaving a sigh of relief and telling himself to be more careful, Gilbert entered the room to investigate the bright light. The moment he entered the room and saw Sieg, shock appeared on his face. Sieg had been caught red-handed. Leah sat in her room, looking at a picture of her son Gelt, and wondered how he was doing. Her melancholic mood was disturbed by the approaching commotion. Gilbert entered the room while carrying a bewildered Sieg, shouting that he had seen Sieg standing. Ignoring the complaints of the maid Anna, he put down Sieg on the ground, excited to show Leah their son standing. Leah was amazed to see Sieg standing with the help of a support and praised him. Meanwhile, Sieg almost had a heart attack. At first he thought that he had been caught practicing magic. Fortunately, it seemed that his father had been surprised to see him standing and got too excited. Sieg wondered if it was thanks to being the lucky one. With shining eyes, Gilbert encouraged Sieg to walk towards Leah. It was an absurd request, as Sieg had not learned how to walk yet. However, he could not let his parents down now. Mustering all his strength, Sieg let go of the support and slowly wobbled towards Leah's bed. Through willpower alone, Sieg managed to complete the whole journey and reached his destination. He tightly clung to the bed frame for support, completely exhausted from exerting his body beyond what it was capable of. Walking as a baby for the first time was extremely hard after all. Leah patted his head and praised Sieg. Gilbert lifted Sieg into his arms and rubbed his head as well. He had not expected Sieg to learn to walk so soon. He had a hard time containing his excitement. While Sieg was hoping his neck would not break under his father's strong hands, the butler Hans appeared behind Gilbert. Gilbert felt a chill run down his spine as he turned around. Hans instructed Gilbert to return to the office. He could not keep running from his duties. Gilbert tried to argue back, but was immediately shut down by the smile on Hans' face. In the end, he had no choice but to return. After saying farewell to Lia, he left the room while bickering with Hans. Lia watched them leave with a smile, and then instructed Anna to fetch some books from Sieg's room. First using magic and now walking, Sieg was tired beyond belief. Sensing his fatigue, Lia made her lie down next to her to rest. As she lightly rubbed his hair, Lia gently chatted with Sieg. Soon, Sieg was going to be 1 year old. She was glad to see him growing up well. Moreover, she felt really happy to see Sieg walking up to her today. She was able to see Sieg walk for the first time after all. As she spoke, her voice faded away into a whisper. Sieg realized that his mother was acting strangely. With a shadowed gaze, she began to express her heartfelt wishes for him. She wanted him to live freely, unburdened by the constraints of nobility. She knew that his future would be fraught with challenges, filled with moments of unreasonable and absurd events. She hoped that, when those times came, he would stand by his choices without regret, embracing the outcomes with courage and looking forward with resilience. She wished for him to grow stronger and kinder than anyone else, to be a beacon of strength and compassion. Tears welled up in her eyes as she promised to always be his ally, no matter the circumstances. Sieg noticed her tears, his concern evident in his wide eyes. Lia maintained a gentle smile as she kissed his forehead tenderly, a gesture filled with love and a deep sense of longing. If wishes did come true, she hoped for Sieg to remember the days they had spent together. As her words faded into silence, Lia collapsed like a doll with broken strings. Anna, who had returned, dropped the books in her hand and ran up to Lia, desperately calling out her name. However, her efforts were only met with a deafening silence. "I in the Magic Academy." A young man wearing a cloak busied himself with his work, his focus unwavering. The door behind him creaked open, revealing another hooded figure standing in the doorway. The figure addressed Gelt, informing him about a letter from his father. Gelt, uninterested, dismissed the figure's words without a second thought. However, the hooded figure then delivered shocking news that broke through Gelt's indifference. His mother, Lia, had passed away. The weight of this revelation made it impossible for Gelt to remain indifferent as shock appeared in his eyes. The sky was shrouded in dark clouds and accompanied by heavy rain, creating an especially gloomy atmosphere that mirrored the emotions of everyone attending the funeral. Held in Gilbert's arms, Sieg silently observed the funeral unfold. Everyone felt crestfallen by the loss and expressed their grief in various ways. However, among them, Gelt stared at Sieg with hatred-filled eyes, his emotions in a turmoil. After the funeral, Gilbert apologized to Albert for calling him on such a short notice to help with everything. Albert shook his head. As the eldest son of the house, it was his responsibility. Rather than focusing on that, Albert and Willie were more worried about Gilbert. The funeral was mostly done, and only a few things were left. Willie offered to take care of the rest and advised Gilbert to rest. Many days had passed since the death of Lia, and Gilbert had not slept even once during that time. The fatigue was apparent on Gilbert's face, the dark circles clearly visible, but he could not rest until everything was finished. He wanted to send Lia off until the very end with his own hands. There was no persuading him. In one of the rooms of the mansion, Anna took care of Sieg in her arms while Albert consoled Ariane and Theo. Sieg was lost deep in his thoughts. He had learnt that his mother had an incurable disease at the funeral speech. It was even a miracle that she had even given birth to Sieg in her condition. Sieg lamented the fact that he had never noticed anything odd about her despite being the closest to her. Lia was always beautiful and vibrant, never in distress. Regrets naturally formed in his mind. If only he had used appraisal eyes, he would have realized Lia was sick. With his special blessing, he could have learnt magic that could cure her illness. However, nothing could be done now. Tears welled up in Sieg's eyes as he blamed himself for not doing anything. As Theo stood up to leave, Albert asked him where he was going. Theo wanted to go and greet Gelt, who was likely still grieving at Leah's grave. Albert agreed that it was a good idea. After all, Gelt loved Leah more than anyone. When Theo opened the door, he saw Gelt rushing towards him, with a maid following behind him in a hurry. Theo tried to talk to him, but Gelt completely ignored him and pushed him aside, entering the room in a haste. It was only then that Theo noticed the expression on Gelt's face and his intention. However, it was already too late. He tried to stop Gelt, crying out for him to not do it. But Gelt did not even register his words. Lightning gathered at his hand, transforming into a deadly attack as he unleashed it at Sieg without caring for anything in the world. Sieg was surprised by this development, but managed to cast a defensive spell of light element, Light Wall. The thunder spear collided with the light wall, creating a deafening explosion, the impact shattering all the glass windows in the room. Ariane desperately cried out as she saw Anna and Sieg collapsed on the ground, with Gelt standing over them. Gelt had no intention of stopping here. He created another thunder spear in his palm and was about to strike Sieg when Albert tackled him down, disarming him as a threat. Theo and Ariane ran up to Sieg and Anna and cast their healing magic hurriedly. They did not want to lose any more precious people. Albert held Gelt down, preventing him from making any other moves, and inquired about his motive behind the attack. Gelt believed that if Sieg was not here, his mother would not have died. It was a completely ridiculous claim based on no logic. Albert tried to make Gelt understand that since carrying Sieg, their mother's health had improved. It was only thanks to Sieg that they were able to mail some last memories together. But there was no convincing Gelt. He firmly believed that the killer of his mother was Sieg. Gelt released lightning from his hands, but Albert remained steadfast and did not let go, trying to talk some sense into Gelt. Just then, Albert heard a voice telling him to step back. Without giving it any thought, he followed his instincts and immediately backed out. In an instant, Gelt was trapped in a prison of ice, completely unable to move. Willie praised Albert's reaction speed as he arrived with Gilbert after noticing the commotion. Willie walked past the bound Gilbert and encased Anna and Sieg in a bubble of water made by magic. Under the effects of the healing magic, the burn marks on Anna and Sieg began to recover at a visible pace. After making sure everything was okay, he turned to Theo and Ariane and praised them for handling the situation well. Willie then ascertained Anna's condition and reassured Gilbert. Sieg's wounds were already healed and his life was not in danger. He suggested for Gelt to talk to Gelt as he took the unconscious Sieg in his arms. Sieg's life was not in danger anymore and his injuries had been healed, but it was still a terrible thing to do to a child. Taking Sieg with him, Willie asked Theo and Ariane to follow him as well. Ariane wiped the tears from her eyes and stood up. Willie also instructed Anna to come with him. She had been seriously injured earlier and needed some rest. However, Anna refused the offer. She was still the head maid and needed to take care of the aftermath of the incident. Willie thanked her and was about to leave when Gelt shouted at him to free him. Looking at Gelt, who was bound and unable to move, Ariane resolved herself and asked for Gelt's motives behind his actions. Leah's death had absolutely no relation with Sieg after all, but Gelt did not share her view. In his eyes, it looked like everyone had been fooled by Sieg. Ariane did not want a rift to form between the siblings and pleaded for Gelt to never do such a thing again. Gelt grinded his teeth in anger, not even registering what Ariane was saying, and stared at the unconscious Sieg. He vowed to kill Sieg no matter what. Hearing his declaration, Ariane was shocked. She closed her eyes and shook her head. This seemed to help her clear her mind as she addressed her father, asking him not to let Gelt near Sieg ever again. Gilbert could not say anything as he saw the change in his daughter's eyes. With a newfound resolve, Ariane declared that she was Sieg's ally, and she would not forgive Gelt if he hurt Sieg ever again. Gelt was also shook upon hearing her words. It appeared that no one was on his side. Willie could not help but sigh. He wondered who had hinted such a thing to Gelt. They needed to find out about it as soon as possible. Gilbert agreed with Willie on that regard. The real culprit needed to be uncovered. As Gelt saw Willie leave with the kids, he begrudgingly thought. Since Sieg's birth, he had always been the center of attention. Gelt was the one who was left out in the cold, while Sieg always stayed beside his mother. Gelt felt like his place, and his mother were stolen from him by Sieg. For that, he was never going to forgive Sieg. The first thing Sieg saw when opening his eyes were the relieved faces of Theo and Ariane. Ariane had tears at the corner of her eyes as she hugged Sieg, thanking the gods for saving him. Willie also examined Sieg just to be on the safe side, and the results were completely fine. Sieg had made a full recovery. By now, Sieg's foggy mind had started to clear. He remembered he was attacked by Gelt, his older brother. Sieg understood that Gelt hated him thanks to the glare he was receiving at the funeral, but he had not expected the hatred to be strong enough to target his life. That terrifying gaze was now burned into Sieg's mind. Theo and Ariane apologized to Sieg for being unable to protect him even though they were right there. Sieg did not blame them at all. He knew they were not the ones at fault. Willie assured the two of them that he was using his surveillance magic to monitor Sieg. If Gelt were to come near Sieg now, he would quickly be informed. Ariane stroked Sieg's face gently and promised to always protect him no matter what. Ariane's voice faded as she fell silent. She had fallen asleep due to exhaustion from using healing magic and the stress. As soon as the tension left her, fatigue overwhelmed her and she could not resist. Theo believed that Leah's death was not Sieg's fault. Although they could not prove it, they knew that it was Sieg who made their last memories with their mother full of warmth and happiness. Willie patted Theo, agreeing with him. He also felt that Sieg was a blessing for their family. Sieg, who had been listening to everything, was amazed to find that his family thought that highly of him, even though he could do nothing. Willie picked up the sleeping Ariane and advised Theo to get some rest as well. He told them not to worry, as he would protect Sieg while he slept. Theo expressed his gratitude to Willie for saving Sieg. Willie was surprised, but soon smiled as warmth filled his heart. After putting Sieg, Ariane, and Theo to sleep, Willie sat on a sofa while waiting for Gilbert to return, lost in his thoughts. As Gilbert appeared, Willie asked about Gelt's condition, but Gilbert could only sigh. It was useless, no matter what he said, as Gelt refused to listen to anything. Gelt was full of grudge and hatred for Sieg. Gilbert had contacted his father, who had agreed to take Gelt in after being informed of the situation. It was a shame, but now that such an incident had occurred, Gilbert could not let Gelt enter the mansion again. It was best for his father to deal with Gelt now. With that issue resolved, Willie presented the conjecture he had been thinking about. Earlier, he had used appraisal on Gert and found that he was not under the effects of any kind of brainwashing. It was possible that someone had made things up to coerce Gelt, or Gelt had suffered some kind of mind contamination. In his opinion, the magic school was extremely suspicious. Gilbert agreed with his view, but he also could not help but wonder if they were Gelt's true feelings. Willie believed that no matter how brilliant Gelt was, he could not do this much. The best course of action was to search inside the magic school. There was something to be found there for sure. Gilbert expressed his understand and turned around, intent on investigating the magic school right this instant. However, he could not even make it to the door before he collapsed. Willie rushed after him in concern and asked him to rest. Gilbert was at his limit. Both his body and his heart were unable to persist anymore. Willie requested Gilbert to get some rest and leave the investigation to him. He promised to find out whatever there was. Gilbert could only clench his fist, feeling full of frustration and helplessness, as he apologized to Leah for failing to protect their children. As the moon illuminated the night sky, Willie stood on the roof of the mansion and gazed in the direction of the Magic Academy. He could not help but feel frustrated. Even when he was this close, he could not protect anything. Unable to contain his bubbling anger, his magic power leaked out uncontrollably, freezing not only the railing he was holding but the entire roof behind him. He vowed to himself to bring hell to whoever had borne their fangs against the Abel family, against the people he loved. After that incident, everyone changed. Naturally, so did Sieg. In order to not have regrets and to protect his precious family, he decided to make the most of the special thing that he had received and aimed to become stronger. He stopped acting like a child and did whatever he could. He started to learn everything, from magic to martial arts. For his mother, who always believed in him, and for his family that always supported him, he aimed to become the strongest, because that was what the special him could do. 4 years passed by in the blink of an eye. Theo, who was walking along the corridor, heard a voice call out for him from behind. When he turned around, he saw a Sieg who had grown up considerably asking to be taken along to defeat monsters. Theo was caught off guard by Sieg's request. Seeing his confusion, Sieg smiled mischievously and revealed that he knew about Theo secretly working for the Adventurer Guild. Even now, Theo was headed somewhere to meet someone named Nikolai to defeat some monsters. Theo was surprised but could not understand how his secret had been revealed. The only reason Sieg knew about it was thanks to his appraisal eyes. He could see everything about Theo and had deduced from all the gathered information that Theo was headed out to defeat monsters. Even though his secret was revealed, Theo firmly denied Sieg's request. He could not allow Sieg to come with him because it was too early for him. No matter how much Sieg begged, Theo could not bring a child that was unable to fight to hunt monsters. Seeing no other way to persuade Theo, Sieg released his magic power and gathered a fire created by mana in his hand. Theo was shocked to see Sieg wielding magic. Not only was he too young to handle magic, the magic he had shown was nothing to scoff at either. Sieg revealed that he could cast even stronger magic. He really wanted to go and hunt monsters. Sieg had been practicing magic by himself until now, and he had learnt that just using magic would not increase his magic power. Whenever he tried to cast advanced level magic, it never worked, even though he had no trouble casting beginner level magic. While Sieg was wondering why his magic power was not increasing, Helper told him that the reason was his low level. The people of this world subconsciously absorbed the power released when they defeated monsters and transformed it into their own power to grow. Sieg's special appraising eyes showed this phenomenon in the form of levels and experience to make it easier to understand. Therefore, if Sieg did not increase his level by defeating monsters and gaining experience, his magic power would not increase and he would be unable to use stronger magic. If Sieg wanted to get stronger, there was no other way than fighting monsters. Theo understood that Sieg needed battle experience to grow, but he remained puzzled to the rush that Sieg was in. Just being able to use magic at such a young age was already an incredible feat. Sieg wanted to become as strong as possible to protect the people that were precious to him. Unfortunate incidents could happen at any time. There was no guarantee that the world would wait for him to become stronger before throwing difficulties at him. Hearing his younger brother seriously contemplating such matters, Theo remembered the time he had been unable to stop Gelt. The feeling of helplessness of being unable to protect the people you loved. He understood it very well. Theo conjured the wind magic, whispering wind, and sent a message to Hans, asking for a carriage to be prepared to the White Forest as soon as possible. He then relayed a message to Nikolai about the change of plans. Sieg's eyes sparkled as he realized he had succeeded in persuading his older brother. Theo made sure to set the ground rules before they set off. It was only going to be a one-time thing, and Theo needed to pay extra care to not get separated from Theo. Sieg stood to attention, expressing full compliance to the instructions provided, surprising Theo. On their way to the White Forest, Theo and Sieg sat in the carriage and discussed their plan for the day. Today, Theo was going to let Sieg defeat the White Rabbits in the White Forest. White Rabbits were monsters that Sieg would have to defeat in the White Hunt within a few months. The White Hunt was a tradition where a noble child experienced defeating a monster for the first time. They were going to do a rehearsal battle to prepare for that. As the carriage silently traversed the road, Theo could not help but muse about their good luck. It just so happened that Ariane was attending a tea ceremony and was not present when they left. Otherwise, she would not have allowed Theo to bring Sieg with him. Sieg agreed with her. Ever since the day Sieg had gotten hurt, Ariane never let Sieg go anywhere alone. Sieg felt happy about her wanting to protect him, but even Theo had to admit that she was being too overprotective. Still, Theo could not help but request for Sieg not to hate his big sister. She only wanted to protect him and had no ill will. Sieg reassured him that he would not hate Ariane just because of that. He loved her very much, just like he loved Theo. Theo's face turned slightly red at the unexpected blow and thanked Sieg. The carriage finally arrived at the entrance to the White Forest. Theo thanked Hans and instructed him to pick them up at the same location at the scheduled time. He also requested Hans to keep everything a secret. Hans sighed, reminded of Theo's father Gilbert. Like father, like son, he thought as he left with the carriage. Before they headed inside, Theo instructed Sieg not to use his magic power in front of Nikolai. Nikolai was a trusted friend. but Sieg's magic power was a secret to anyone except their family. As Sieg expressed understanding, Theo stretched out his hand towards him. Sieg was confused before he understood the purpose behind the gesture. Since he was 5 years old only, he needed to hold hands. It was embarrassing since he was a grown man in mind, but as a younger brother now, he had to do it for his older brother. Sieg wrapped his small hands around Theo's fingers. An old memory, the memory of Theo holding his hand for the very first time, surfaced in Theo's mind as a smile naturally formed on his face. While Sieg was confused, Theo promised to properly protect him if anything were to happen. Theo led Sieg through the relatively safe path, passing by fountains and waterfalls, before they arrived at the true entrance of the White Forest. Entering the White Forest for real this time, Sieg was amazed by the beautiful scenery that was sketched in front of him. Since the White Forest was filled with a unique magic power, all the plants inside it were also white in color. There were many monsters that even a novice adventurer could defeat in the forest. However, they needed to be careful not to go too deep since it was connected to the silent forest where terrifying monsters lived. As the siblings chatted to pass time, Nikolai arrived at the scene. He had been wondering what was going on when Theo had sent the message about changing the hunting grounds. He wondered what Theo was doing in a beginner's area. Nikolai was surprised to see a young kid standing next to Theo. When Sieg introduced himself politely, his surprise turned into delight at finally meeting the rumored little brother of Theo. Nikolai ruffled Sieg's hair, praising for his good manners and politeness. In his excitement, Nikolai got a little too into roughing up Sieg that Theo had to step in and stop him. Sieg wiped the sweat on his forehead. Nikolai did not seem like a bad person, although there was no denying that he was quite energetic. Nikolai introduced himself as Nikolai von Baden, a rank D adventurer. At the same time, all his information was revealed to Sieg thanks to his appraisal eyes. Nikolai is 3 years older than Theo and appeared to be a magic swordsman. That much did not surprise Sieg. What really caught his attention was Nikolai's stats. He wondered if everyone normally had similar stats. It was not hard for Nikolai to guess that the change of plans was due to Sieg joining them. Sieg addressed Nikola and explained that he had forced Theo to bring him along. Since he was the one who pushed for it, he was willing to give all the monster loot to Nikolai in exchange for his cooperation. Nikolai found himself amused by Sieg offering a trade, while Theo was surprised and wondered where Sieg had learned it from. Nikolai laughed and agreed to Sieg's trade offer without any hesitation. Sieg heaved a sigh of relief upon hearing the answer and expressed his gratitude. He was glad that Nikolai was a good person and imagined that things would go smoothly. To Sieg's surprise, Nikolai picked him up with one hand and placed him on his shoulders, ready to search for monsters for Sieg to hunt. Theo tried to protest to Nikolai's actions, but his concerns were dismissed by Nikolai for being overprotective. Sieg did not know how to deal with someone as energetic as Nikolai, but he did not hate it. And so, with Sieg riding on Nikolai's shoulders and Theo closely following along, they moved through the White Forest in search of monsters. Along the way, Sieg could not help but ask the reason for Theo and Nikolai to be hunting monsters in secret. Seeing Theo struggle to answer, Nikolai explained the reason himself. The truth was that Theo was helping Nikolai earn money to pay for medical bills. Nikolai belonged to a noble family who had become poor now, otherwise also known as fallen nobles. If it was only to earn a living, Nikolai could manage on his own easily, but his little sister suffered from a terrible disease. If Nikolai hunted alone, he would not be able to earn enough to support his sister's medical bills. As such, Theo was forcibly helping him. Perhaps feeling a bit shy, Theo made an excuse that he was only doing it because he could practice his swordsmanship. Hearing Nikolai mention his sick sister, Sieg remembered his mother who had passed away due to an illness and felt bad for forcing Nikolai to come to a beginner's area instead of a place where he could earn more money. Sieg apologized to Nikolai, but Nikolai told him not to worry as he ruffled his hair. Even white rabbits would make some money if one hunted enough of them, so he was not worried. Meanwhile, Theo almost had a heart attack seeing Nikolai being so rough with Sieg. Finally identifying a white rabbit, Sieg stepped down from Sieg's shoulders and stood against the monster. His goal today was to reach level 3 at the very least, and to utilize the appraisal eyes in combat. Sieg activated the appraisal eyes and analyzed the white rabbit. The appraisal not only told him of the elements the monster was weak to, but also their weak points. Nikolai offered to help surround the monster so it could not escape and Sieg could get closer. However, Sieg refused and said that the distance was perfect. Nikolai felt like the distance was too large since Sieg did not even have magic. But what he witnessed next completely surprised him. Magic power gathered at the tip of his fingers, swirling and taking the shape of a small bullet. The bullet made of fire shot forward rapidly before accurately piercing through the weak point of the white rabbit. It only took one bullet to kill the white rabbit. Nikolai was amazed by this display of strength by Sieg. Usually, fireballs only had a form of irregular fire unless more magic was added with precise control. And yet Sieg had managed to effortlessly achieve such a feat in the wake of the fire bullet. A shockwave of magic power spread. Sieg was busy celebrating his first monster hunt and did not realize the bewilderment on Nikolai and Theo's face. The firepower demonstrated by Sieg was too much for a child. In the end, Theo could only make a weak excuse to cover up Sieg's uniqueness. Fortunately for him, Nikolai was a simple-minded person who believed Theo without doubting anything, and even praised the Abel family for being a cut above the rest. Sieg checked his status and, as expected, his level had not increased. Just killing one monster was not enough to fill the experience bar after all. Moreover, Sieg wanted to increase the reward for Nikolai and wanted to hunt more monsters. He requested Theo to search for more monsters nearby. Theo spread his mana and activated wind magic, Wind Scout. A crude interface depicting the approximate locations and numbers of monsters in their nearby vicinity appeared on Theo's hand. There were two groups of monsters gathered together, possibly white rabbits that they were seeking. However, a third signal that appeared strange was also present. Before Theo could investigate further, Nikolai picked Sieg up again and started running towards the horde of the monsters, forcing Theo to rush after him in worry of Sieg. Sieg continued the hunt and killed many more white rabbits, in the same way he had killed the first one. Finally, his experience bar was filled and he leveled up. Sieg could feel the physical and magical changes happening in his body and marveled at the effects. In his excitement, he happily announced to Theo that he had leveled up. Upon seeing the confusion apparent on their face, Sieg realized that he had made a mistake. He had forgotten that the concept of level did not exist for the people of the world. Fortunately for him, they did not pay much attention to it and likened it to Sieg wanting to say that he had grown up. Sieg then checked his stats and was pumped to see that his magic power had increased by a lot, in addition to his other stats also increasing moderately. Perhaps it was thanks to one of his special blessings, advanced growth. As Nikolai gathered all the bodies of the monsters in his magic storage, he marveled at Sieg's skills. Not only had he defeated 8 white rabbits, he had also precisely hit them all in their weak spots. It made him wonder if everyone in the Abel family was a monster with amazing talent. Theo awkwardly made another excuse, and fortunately, Nikolai did not seem to catch him. But Sieg understood that Theo was running out of excuses already. Sieg had wanted to reach at least level 3, but it could not be helped since it was almost time for Hans to come and pick them up. He decided to stop here and expressed his gratitude to Nikolai for accompanying him on the training. Suddenly, there was some movement in the bushes before a group of goblins jumped out, charging towards Sieg and his group. Theo hurriedly protected Sieg as he readied to deal with the goblins with the help of Nikolai. But what happened next surprised everyone present. The goblins ran past the group and continued onward, showing no intention of attacking them. Theo noticed the small wounds on the bodies of the goblins and became alarmed. It seemed that the goblins were running away from something. In the next moment, a huge tree trunk was hurled towards them. Nikolai grabbed Sieg in a hurry and stepped out of the way. Theo also managed to escape the fate of being crushed by the tree trunk. All of them were completely fine, but they had been separated into 2 groups due to the huge trunk. The goblins who had been running away from them also turned around and surrounded Nikolai and Sieg. They were only acting as a bait earlier in order to separate the group. Nikolai had a hard time believing it. Goblins did not possess the intelligence needed to craft such a plan. That was certainly true for ordinary goblins. But what Theo found himself facing was no ordinary goblin. It was a goblin general that towered Theo, more than double his height and possessed immense strength. Theo failed to understand how a B rank monster could appear in the White Forest. Between the White Forest and the Silent Forest, there existed a barrier to prevent exact situations. Moreover, the density of magic was vastly different between the two places. Thus, it was impossible for a goblin general to appear in White Forest. Theo analyzed the goblin general and realized that not only was it injured, it also had lost its armor. There was a high chance that he had lost the fight over territory in the Silent Forest and escaped, entering a berserk state and forcing his way through the barrier. Theo could only curse that it had to happen today of all days. The goblin general released a roar and the goblins attacked Sieg and Nikolai, following the orders of their boss. Theo worriedly looked towards Sieg and Nikolai, but before he could provide any sort of support, he hurriedly twisted his body, dodging the attack of the goblin general. Even though he was injured, the goblin general was a B rank monster that was in a berserk state. It was impossible for Theo to defeat him at the moment. If the situation continued like this, the only possible outcome would be their destruction at the hands of the monsters. Thus, Theo resolved himself and got ready to engage the goblin general in a fight. Even if it was impossible, he had to protect Sieg. Nikolai swung his sword and struck down another goblin. Only a goblin was no threat to him, but being surrounded by a horde, his movements were restricted. Even though he had been gradually decreasing their numbers, the end did not seem close. While Nikolai held back another goblin, Sieg stepped forward and unleashed his magic. Multiple fireballs came into existence and launched at the remaining goblins, hitting them all precisely at their weak points. Even Nikolai could not accomplish a feat such as defeating multiple monsters with one strike. However, it was not like Sieg was in the perfect condition after pulling a stunt like that. He struggled to stand and breathe properly, terribly exhausted. Even though he had leveled up by killing the goblins, unfortunately, his stamina did not recover with the level up. His magic power had increased to the point that he would be able to cast advanced magic, but due to his low stamina, he was having trouble even standing, let alone use advanced magic. Additionally, Helper appeared and warned Sieg that there was a high chance he would lose consciousness after using advanced magic. Even if he managed to stay awake, it would be hard for him to move his body. Thus, Sieg only had one chance to defeat the goblin general. Meanwhile, Theo was involved in an intense battle against the goblin general. No matter what he did, his swords failed to leave any substantial injuries on the monster's body. Theo was left with no choice but to make a last stand without holding anything back. Suddenly, the ground beneath his feet began to freeze. It appeared that the goblin general had finally decided to get serious. Icicles made by advanced magic formed rapidly and pierced Theo from the back, completely catching him off guard. Sieg tried to run towards Theo, but he was caught by Nikolai, who immediately shielded him from the attack using his own body. Thanks to the distance between them and the point where the attack was centered, Nikolai had managed to escape with slight bleeding from his head. Nikolai cursed out loud at the development. The only way to save Theo now was to defeat the goblin general. Sieg activated his appraisal eyes and analyzed the goblin general. The helmet of the goblin general was his weak point, or more precisely, it was the eye behind the helmet. Unfortunately, the helmet possessed magic immunity. Any attacks from magic would not be able to expose the weak point for Sieg to effectively take him down. Sieg felt frustrated. What was the point of being special if he was unable to save his family? He needed to think of a way to save Theo. Theo lay on the ground in a pool of his own blood, feeling the pain wreck every part of his body. He remembered the day of the incident, the day Sieg was attacked by Gelt. He knew what Gelt was going to do, but he was unable to stop it. Frustration and regret had filled him at that moment at being unable to protect Sieg. That's why Theo had taken Sieg out with his today, because he understood Sieg's feelings better than anyone. As his older brother, he had the responsibility to protect Sieg. That's why he could not lose now. He could not fail to protect Sieg a second time. Theo gathered all his willpower and forced his battered body to stand. The goblin general, who was charging at Nikolai and Sieg, was suddenly enveloped by a net made of wind, halting its advance. Sieg was surprised to see Theo standing despite his body being in a terrible shape. Not only was he standing, he was also holding back the goblin general on his own. Theo shouted out Nikolai's name, who understood what he was planning and acted immediately. The wind net dispersed, but the goblin general's attack was blocked by a light wall that was erected by Nikolai. Nikolai struggled to bear the attack of a B-rank monster, and cracks started to form on the light wall. If this continued, Nikolai would not be able to hold the monster back for too long. However, that was more than enough time for Theo. Theo unsheathed his twin swords and prepared to use his strongest attack. Theo disappeared from his spot and reappeared right next to the goblin general, leaving multiple deep slashes on his body, all in an instant. Nikolai and Sieg were thrilled to see that Theo's attack had worked. Theo collapsed on the ground, completely spent. He had used up everything he had in the last attack. Following behind, the goblin general also collapsed, or at least he was about to, when he suddenly found his balance and roared loudly. Nikolai despaired at the sight. Theo's attack should have dealt the finishing blow, but the goblin general still seemed to possess enough strength to continue the fight. Even in this hopeless situation, Sieg saw a light of hope. The helmet of the goblin general had been broken thanks to Theo's attack, and his weak point was now exposed. Sieg requested Nikolai to urgently throw him towards the monster's head. He explained that the monster's weakness was its eyeball. If Sieg aimed strong magic at it, they would be able to defeat it. Nikolai felt reluctant to follow through this plan, but Sieg pleaded him to listen to him. Sieg could not afford to let his family die right in front of his eyes. Nikolai was moved by his determination and nodded his head. He had decided to place his trust in Sieg and do as he was asked. And so, Nikolai lifted Sieg in his hand and encased him in a sphere of light. With a determined shout, Nikolai threw Sieg with all his strength, hurling him towards the goblin general like a cannonball. The sphere of magic cracked and broke apart as it withstood the advanced ice magic thrown by the goblin general, but it had served its purpose in safely delivering Sieg to his target. Still in midair, Sieg concentrated and gathered as much magic power as he could, before giving it the shape of a long spear. The flame spear shot forward at an amazing speed, the fire melting all the ice attacks that were thrown at it and accurately hit the IPF the demon general. There was a blinding light as the flame spear tore through the goblin general, completely disintegrating his upper body. When the light subsided, Nikolai was amazed to see the monster turning to ashes. He could not believe that a kid was able to defeat a rank B goblin general. Upon seeing the result, Sieg was relieved. He had managed to successfully kill the monster. But with all of his stamina and magic power spent, Sieg was unable to move even a muscle as he plummeted towards the ground. Nikolai tried to reach out and catch him, but the distance between them was too much. He would not be able to reach Sieg in time. Right before Sieg hit the ground, Theo forced his body to move and desperately tried to ease his fall using his wind magic, or what little bit was left of it. When Sieg came to, he was being embraced by Theo, who had cushioned his fall. Seeing that Sieg was fine, Theo smiled and then apologized for being unable to do anything again. Sieg shook his head. It was only because Theo had been here that Sieg was able to finish the monster off. And even at the moment, Theo was protecting Sieg in his tattered state. Sieg could only offer his words of gratitude to Theo for protecting him until the very end. Tears filled Theo's eyes as he smiled, embracing Sieg tightly. He was glad he could protect Sieg this time. Nikolai came close to the two of them and cast Light Heal spell. It was not strong enough to heal all of Theo's injuries, but it was enough for ensuring that he could walk at the very least. Nikolai could not help but muse after such an intense battle. He had not expected that they would still be alive after defeating a goblin general. Despite his carefree personality, Nikolai could not help but have doubts about Sieg. Not only he possessed immense magic power, he had also been able to determine the goblin general's weakness in such a short time. Excuses like before were not enough to convince Nikolai anymore. As Sieg struggled to find the right words, Theo pulled him close and answered in his regard. The answer being that he was unable to provide an answer. Theo apologized to Nikolai, but he simply could not answer for the sake of protecting Sieg. Nikolai thought for a moment before he smiled, showing understanding. Sieg was surprised that Nikolai had been convinced so easily. He had expected for things to escalate, but it was resolved just like that. Nikolai understood that everyone kept secrets they could not talk about, so it was normal. Besides, if people were to find out that a kid had defeated all the monsters, his own rank would drop down. Nikolai promised to not tell anyone about today's incident. Theo could only offer a verbal gratitude to Nikolai being such an understanding person. In exchange for keeping quiet, Nikolai inquired if he could have the ash of the Goblin General. This was magic crystal ash that was only dropped by high-rank monsters and was sold at a high price. With this, he would be able to bring his little sister to a more skilled doctor. Naturally, Sieg had no qualms about it. If it was going to help Nikolai's family, he was more than happy to give the magic ash to him. Watching Nikolai store the ash, Sieg reflected on the bizarre events that had occurred today. Encountering a Goblin General was an event that could easily be classified as extremely bad luck for him. He wondered if he was still carrying the bad luck from his previous life. Helper appeared and rejected Sieg's hypothesis. To Sieg's bewilderment, he explained that everything was because of Sieg being the lucky one. Sieg's wishes were to level up, learn advanced magic, and get an increased reward for Nikolai. Originally, it was impossible to achieve all of those at the same time. However, for the sake of granting all three wishes, because of his great luck, monsters that should not be living in the forest had appeared. This was the chance, provided only to the lucky ones. Sieg remembered Willy's words. If there was power to seize the chance, one could even become a god. Sieg understood the meaning behind those words now. These chances were sure to be given continuously in the future, and they would naturally involve everyone around him. However, if he could seize the chance, he would be able to save the people he wanted to save. There was only one option available, only one path for Sieg to traverse. He needed to become as strong as possible, so that there would not be any sacrifices because of these chances. Theo and Sieg decided to wait for a while as their wounds healed before returning to the carriage. Incidentally, now they had to ask Hans to keep one more secret. As the siblings light-heartedly chatted, unbeknownst to them, they were silently being observed by a magical beast. A few months after defeating the Goblin General, Sieg was accompanied by his family members in the White Forest. The White Hunt was an event where a noble kid would be defeating a monster for the first time. Although this was not his first time defeating monsters, Sieg was still going through the custom. With ease, Sieg used the fire attribute spell, Fireball, to strike the retreating white rabbit and killed it in a single strike. With the job well done, Sieg was ambushed by Ariane from behind, who hugged him and lifted him in his arms, showering him in praises as she spoiled him. Not only Ariane, but Gilbert and Willy were also impressed by Sieg's skills. Though, in Willy's case, he could discern things that the others missed. Sieg had precise control over his magic power. Even though he could have let out more power, he had deliberately reduced the output to make it look like normal magic. Sieg was at a loss for words. It seemed impossible to hide anything from Willy. Gilbert had been worried when he found out about Sieg leaving the mansion before, but observing Sieg's power, he realized that a little adventure outside would not pose a problem. Since the topic was brought up, Ariane also remembered her anger at Theo for taking Sieg out of the mansion in secret and made sure to scold him. In response, all Theo could do was extend his apologies. In the end, Sieg and Theo had been caught while returning to the mansion and were severely scolded. After that, Theo had reported about finding the corpse of the Goblin General, a monster that should not exist inside the White Forest, and the destroyed magical barrier separating White Forest from the Silent Forest. Albert was currently dispatched to keep an eye on the situation, and the problems were almost resolved now. Sieg felt relieved that Gilbert had taken care of the problem quickly, though he could not help but feel guilty about hiding the complete truth regarding the Goblin General, but nothing could be done about it. Sieg's train of thoughts was interrupted by Ariane hugging Sieg tightly, as a reward for working hard. Sieg tried to make her stop, but his struggles proved to be helpless in the face of his older sister's affection. Sieg noticed a strange movement in the bushes and caught a glimpse of a shadow. Feeling that something was off, he decided to check it out. Ariane tried to stop him from going, but a hand on her shoulder stopped her. Gilbert advised Ariane to let Sieg play by himself. Not only they could identify his location by magic, it was also clear that Sieg possessed sufficient strength to not be endangered by any monsters in the White Forest. Ariane hesitated. a particularly memory that had been haunting her since the day of the incident resurfaced again at the thought of leaving Sieg without direct surveillance. Color drained from her face, and her body started trembling. Without paying any attention to her father's words, she ran after Sieg to search for him. Gilbert could only sigh. He had hoped for Ariane to calm down after witnessing Sieg's strength, but since the incident with Gelt, Ariane had been like that. She could not bear the situation where Sieg was left all alone. Children tended to be curious, and in their pursuit of satisfying their curiosity, they tended to get injured from time to time. But despite that, neither Willie nor Gilbert could do anything. The wounds of the heart were impossible to heal with magic. All they could do was wait and see. Willie decided to take Theo with him and group with Albert, who had left for the magical barrier first. Meanwhile, Gilbert would stay here and wait for Sieg and Ariane to come back. Sieg, who was wandering through the forest, finally discovered the shadow he had caught a glimpse of. The shadow was actually a white tiger, a type of sacred beast possessing advanced elements, and was currently heavily injured. The white tiger stood on guard against Sieg and warned him not to get closer. Sieg was surprised to find a sacred beast out in the wild, but what was even more surprising was that it could speak human language. Though, Sieg quickly connected it with the language mastery skill he possessed and calmed down. The white tiger was an endangered protected species. Sieg wondered how a species so rare that one might not even encounter them in their entire life had come to a place like this. Not only that, the injuries on his bodies had a magic shade, a mark left by high-grade magic. Sieg wondered if the white tiger had been smuggled or overhunted by state-level wizards. But there were more pressing matters such as healing the injuries of the white tiger. Sieg tried to approach the white tiger slowly, assuring him that Sieg was not his enemy and wanted to save him. However, the white tiger kept its guard up, biting the hand that Sieg had reached out. Sieg grimaced as blood poured out from where the white tiger had sunk his teeth in, but he made no effort to free his hand. Instead, Sieg used his other hand to cast light magic, Light Heal. The wounds on the white tiger's body healed at a visible pace, surprising the white tiger that it had been helped. The ferociousness faded from his eyes along with the pain. Stunned, he started to lick the wound on Sieg's hands to show his friendliness. Sieg laughed as he looked at the now friendly white tiger. Not only was his fur fluffy, he also looked cute. Sieg rubbed the white tiger's face, understanding that the white tiger had been completely scared. Remembering all the tough times it had suffered at the hands of the humans, tears welled up in his eyes. Sieg embraced him gently, comforting the distressed magical beast. He was glad that he was able to find the white tiger. Otherwise, there was a high chance it would have died. The white tiger's eyes shone brightly. He believed that Sieg was a good person and expressed his gratitude to him. The next moment, a huge magic circle appeared under Sieg, and mana enveloped Sieg and the white tiger. With perfect timing, Helper jumped out and announced that the contract with the white tiger was established. Seeing Sieg's apparent shock, Helper explained that he had formed a blood contract with the white tiger. Blood contract was an ancient contract method that could only be used with a high-grade magical beast or a sacred beast. It consisted of the contractor providing his blood and the contracted ingesting that blood. Sieg did not remember providing his blood to the white tiger, but realization struck him instantly. The white tiger had licked his wound earlier and ingested his blood that way. Once again, Sieg was ambushed from behind by Ariane, who held him in his arms and reprimanded him for running away alone. Ariane seemed to notice that Sieg had gotten heavier, but it was only when she let him go that she saw a magical beast stuck to him. Shocked out of her wits, she screamed in surprise without even thinking. Gilbert was currently facing a dilemma. His son, who had gone to play in the forest, had come back with a black cat's baby. Although he did see some resemblance between a black cat and the magical beast that his son was holding, there was one stark difference. It had white fur instead of black. Moreover, the white forest did not have a black cat habitat. Sieg could only make random excuses that he had to think up on the spot. Sieg could not reveal that the magical beast in his hands was a white tiger, a rare species that was protected, and that he had established a blood contract with him. Seeing his father lost in thought, Sieg gathered up his courage and expressed his desire to take care of the magical beast. Before Gilbert could reject or deny his request, Ariane protested that raising a magical beast was dangerous, and Sieg had already been bit by this magical beast too. As such, she could not allow it. Sieg explained that the white tiger would not be able to survive on his own, and that he would not hurt Sieg again. While the siblings continued to argue, Gilbert felt at a loss on what to do. Finally, he addressed Sieg with a serious expression and demanded Sieg to swear to protect and take responsibility for the magical beast child until the end. Without a shred of hesitation, Sieg agreed to those demands, as that's exactly what he was planning to do. Sensing the conviction in his son's words, Gilbert nodded and allowed Sieg to raise the magical beast himself. Ariane tried to protest, but Gilbert's decision had already been made. Instead of trying to change that, he advised her to help Sieg in raising the magical beast instead. Sieg was delighted and expressed his gratitude to Gilbert, who had listened to his wishes. After finding out that Sieg had cast healing magic to heal the white tiger, Gilbert's eyes shone like a doting parent as he praised Sieg. Since Gilbert had already given his permission, Ariane could no longer protest to Sieg raising white tiger. However, that did not mean she trusted him completely. For Sieg's protection, she declared that she would strictly monitor the white tiger for Sieg's protection. Sieg could not help but have a terrible feeling about it. Following that declaration, whether on the way back to the mansion, or Sieg quietly living his life in the mansion, Ariane kept strict supervision on Sieg all the time. Even when the white tiger tried to surrender by showing his belly to her, Ariane refused to be deceived by only a cute pose. Sieg felt a headache assaulting him due to being under constant scrutiny. Since Ariane had been following him everywhere, he was unable to do any training involving advanced magic. He needed to do something to make some alone time. The white tiger was confused by Sieg's behavior and wondered why he was in a rush. Sieg knew that since he was special, there was no doubt a dangerous event like the Goblin General could happen anytime. That was why he needed to get stronger fast, so that he could protect everyone. The white tiger sensed Sieg's emotion and realized that he was scared. To ease his tension, the white tiger jumped on Sieg, rubbing his fluffy fur against him to calm him down. As Sieg played around with the white tiger, Ariane watched with a nervous heart. In fact, she understood it already, the fact that the white tiger was not evil and did not intend to harm Sieg. However, she knew from experience that unexpected people could hurt the things they held most dear. Ariane understood that she was being a coward. Ever since that incident, she had been unable to believe in anyone. Ariane slapped her face with both her hands, shaking the feeling of fear and resolving herself. If she kept acting like this, she would only hinder Sieg's development. Finally, she made up her mind. If nothing happened tonight, she would back down. Unbeknownst to her, the white tiger ambushed her while she was lost in thought, sensing her distress. Unfortunately, Sieg was unable to stop White Tiger in time. At nighttime, Sieg sighed as he sat in bed. For obvious reasons, he felt exhausted at the end of the day. However, now was his chance. Ariane would not disturb him when it was time to sleep, so he could practice the newly learned advanced magic now. Sieg focused his magic power on the palm of his hand, but was surprised the next moment as Ariane barged into his room, wearing her sleeping gown. Ariane approached Sieg, who was confused by her untimely appearance, and proposed to sleep together. Sieg was perplexed by his current situation. He was being held by a soundly sleeping Ariane, with the white tiger sleeping next to him on the bed. Ariane had been worried that the white tiger would hurt Sieg, so she had been keeping watch over him, although it was unexpected for her to force Sieg to also sleep with her. If this continued, Sieg would be unable to train advanced magic. It was not like he hated being close to his sister, but something had to be done. Left with no other options, Sieg decided to try a very specific magic he had learned after defeating the Goblin General, Spatial Move. Sieg carefully gathered his mana to not wake Ariane and successfully managed to cast Spatial Move spell. His body disappeared and appeared outside of the bed. The distance he had covered was not large, but he had successfully escaped the clutches of his older sister. Sieg was thrilled at the magic working without problems. He could not use it in front of people, so it was his first time trying it, but everything went well. Now he could go to the White Forest to train using Spatial Move. Despite Ariane continuing to sleep uninterrupted, Sieg disappearing from his bed had caused the white tiger to wake up. The white tiger advised Sieg not to go alone. If he did, Ariane would become sad. Sieg told him not to worry, as he planned to return before Ariane could wake up. Moreover, the white tiger was also recovering from his injuries, so Sieg could not take him along. The white tiger felt hesitant to let Sieg go alone, but Sieg was determined to become stronger quickly to protect his family. Sieg cast Spatial Move and disappeared from the room, headed towards the white forest. The white tiger looked at Ariane, wondering if he should wake her up. He ran around in circles, unable to contain his nervousness and make a decision. Finally, he made up his mind and jumped out of the window, chasing after Sieg to make sure he was safe. In the white forest, Sieg appeared out of thin air and landed on the ground. He felt a little short of breath and took a moment to calm down. As expected of a high-level magic, it consumed a lot of stamina. However, this much was nothing for Sieg, who had been training his body extensively to increase his endurance and stamina. Since he had leveled up, the number of advanced magics he could use had increased, and Sieg wanted to test them out today. He started with an advanced magic of ice attribute called Ice Cluster. Within an instant, multiple structures resembling skyscrapers that he had seen in his previous life were formed purely out of ice. The ice skyscrapers had not only formed instantaneously, they also possessed an intricate level of detail to them. Sieg was thrilled by the success of his magic, his spurt burning more than ever to continue the momentum and cast the other advanced magics. Thus, Sieg busied himself in his magic practice and tried and tested multiple advanced magic spells. After a while, Sieg readied himself as he prepared to test the final advanced magic for this session before calling an end to it. He focused and gathered advanced lightning in his hand. However, his thoughts drifted as his memory of Gelt resurfaced due to the familiarity of the magic element. The lightning left Sieg's control and took on the form of Gelt. Sieg was surprised by this development, but he was not allowed any time to think leisurely as the lightning Gelt turned to stare at Sieg. Sieg hurriedly cast multiple fireballs, but they all proved to be useless as they failed to deal any damage to Gelt. Not only was Gelt unfazed, he was also preparing to strike Sieg in response. Left with no choice, Sieg gathered all of his remaining magic power to create a powerful spear made of flames, an advanced fire spell known as Flame Spear. The spear flew with a tremendous momentum and obliterated the lightning attribute mana that was in the form of Gelt. As the dust settled, Sieg struggled to calm his rapid breathing. Magic was strongly affected by the caster's imagination in this world. When Sieg cast thunder magic, his trauma from that incident had made the magic go berserk and turn on him. Struggling to breath, Sieg's body collapsed onto the ground. In a panic, he had used too much magic and was unable to move now. Helper popped up and warned Sieg to stay conscious, as a herd of white rabbits was approaching the collapsed Sieg, who was completely defenseless. Sieg cursed in his mind. He had planned to return home before Ariane woke up, but now he was in a difficult predicament. Sieg could not help but question his own actions, running around, impatient and so weak. He remembered the question White Tiger had asked him earlier that day, and now fully understood it. Even though he had a special power, he had been unable to save his mother. He had decided to become strong after seeing Theo get hurt because of his fate, and yet the trauma of being beaten by Gelt had never left his mind. Sieg was simply afraid of his weakness. Through his rapidly fading consciousness, Sieg saw the figure of White Tiger closing in on him and scaring away the white rabbits. Before his vision completely faded to darkness in the morning, there was a commotion at the Abel household. Everyone was occupied with searching for Sieg, who had gone missing, as they scurried around in a panic. They had already searched the main building and the other smaller ones adjacent to it, but there were no signs of Sieg. Additionally, Gilbert had already been informed and was on his way here. Theo was hopeful that they would be able to expand the scope of the search widely when his father arrived, and this would produce some results. Ariane, who was still in her sleeping wear, also stood outside the mansion, desperately searching for Sieg. She could not help but have extreme thoughts such as the White Tiger doing something to Sieg. It only made sense as the White Tiger was also nowhere to be seen, just like Sieg. At that moment, new information appeared as one of the maids had seen the White Tiger last night. The maid had seen the white tiger running outside the mansion, headed in the direction of the white forest. Unfortunately, Sieg was not with the white tiger. Because it was late at night, the maid had mistaken the white tiger for something else and had not bothered to report it until now. From the information, it was easy to infer that the white tiger did not take Sieg with him but was chasing after Sieg. Although this was not a confirmed conclusion, it had a high chance of being the truth. Without wasting any time, Ariane decided to head towards the white forest, ignoring the voices of the maids behind her telling her to wait for the carriage. In fact, Ariane had not even bothered to change her clothes because she did not want to waste any precious time when she could be searching for Sieg. Or perhaps she had not even noticed she was wearing her sleepwear. Fortunately for Ariane, she did not have to go far as moments after she left the mansion grounds. She saw a small silhouette approaching from the distance. The silhouette was actually an injured white tiger who was dragging Sieg's unconscious body behind. Seeing Ariane approach, the white tiger collapsed on the ground due to exhaustion. Ariane understood what had happened even without anyone telling her. It was clear that the white tiger had carried Sieg all the way from the white forest. Ariane checked Sieg's condition and was relieved to find that Sieg was still breathing. However, the situation was still dire. While she was panicking on what to do, the white tiger approached Sieg and licked his hand. The concern was visible on his face. Observing the actions of the white tiger, Ariane stopped panicking and pulled herself together. She needed to stay strong in situations like these. Ariane picked up both the white tiger and Sieg in her arms, determined to save them no matter what. As his consciousness returned, Sieg found himself enveloped by a warm sensation. Ariane was using her healing magic on Sieg and the white tiger at the same time, having Sieg rest on her lap. Seeing Sieg wake up, Ariane was filled with relief. She hugged Sieg tightly, crying tears of joy, while Sieg could only apologize for making her worry. Beside Sieg's bed stood Gilbert, who had been waiting for Sieg to regain consciousness. Gilbert had heard about the situation from Ariane and was glad that Sieg was able to wake up without any problems. However, he still had to ask one question from Sieg: if Sieg had gone to the white forest alone late at night. Sieg did not lie and admitted to it. He had in fact gone to the white forest alone late at night and was not taken away by someone. When asked for his reason of going to the white forest, Sieg hesitated to answer. He could not say that he had gone there using movement magic to train his advanced level magic. Sieg hung his head around, unable to say a single word. Gilbert did not pressure him for an answer. Instead, he changed the topic. After all the trouble Sieg had caused, he could not just let it slide. As a punishment, Sieg was forbidden to leave the mansion for 2 weeks, and surveillance magic would be used to watch him all times. Sieg did not object to the punishment and accepted it without hesitation. Gilbert lowered himself, looking into Sieg's eyes as he spoke. He knew that Sieg was a smart kid who always thought about his family. He also knew that Sieg breaking out this time was also not for the sake of doing anything bad. Whenever Sieg hid something, it was to avoid causing worry. Gilbert spoke with confidence and reassurance as he stated that no one was weak in the Abel family. Sieg did not need to carry the weight alone and could rely on his family. Sieg also realized that his family was not weak. He had witnessed it with his own eyes many times in the past. If he were to rely on his family more, surely no one would be burdened if he relied on them a little bit. Tears welled up in Sieg's eyes as he realized that he was blessed by such a great family. He confessed to training magic in the White Forest. Sieg had been worried about shocking people if he used strong magic in front of them. Just as his tears flowed, his real feelings also flowed from his mouth effortlessly. Sieg was afraid that if he did not get strong enough, everyone would disappear like his mother had. Both Ariane and Gilbert were shocked to hear that Sieg remembered about the time with Leah. Ariane hugged Sieg strongly, reassuring him that no one was going to disappear, no matter what. Gilbert also embraced his 2 children and consoled them, promising that he would not let anyone be taken away ever again. The father, daughter, and son trio stayed like that for a while, embracing each other as Sieg let out all the emotions that had been bubbling inside of him. After some time, Sieg laid in his bed, remembering the drama that had occurred just a while ago. It was his first time crying in front of so many people. Moreover, his brothers who had come back from reporting the incident also saw him crying. The embarrassment he felt was immeasurable, however. It was thanks to relieving all his pent-up emotions that he felt very relieved now. He genuinely wanted to become strong for his family, and that had not changed. But perhaps there was a small corner in his heart where he sought someone to rely on. In any case, Sieg decided to stop being so reckless and doing things that made everyone sad or worried. Sieg also thanked the white tiger dearly for saving his life. The white tiger liked Sieg, so it was only natural for him to save him, or so the white tiger thought. As a reward, he demanded for Sieg to pet him. Sieg laughed as he played around with the white tiger, petting his soft and fluffy belly. It was only then that he remembered that he had yet to give a name to the white tiger. Only now did Sieg realize how much of a rush he had been in lately. The white tiger did not understand the concept of a name, so Sieg had to explain it to him. After thinking for a while, Sieg decided to name White Tiger as Haku. Haku's eyes sparkled at receiving the name, and he jumped at Sieg, wagging his tail happily. And so was formed a lifelong partnership between a sacred beast and Siegbert Abel. In the main building of the Abel family, Gilbert sat in his office, talking to himself. Ever since Leah passed away, he would often tell her portrait about all of his worries. Gilbert told Leah that Sieg remembered her, along with the days they had spent together. It was a great thing, but at the same time, it was a painful memory to carry. However, Gilbert had failed to realize that simple truth about his own son. He felt like a good-for-nothing father. Sieg's magical skills and intelligence had grown to the point where it was difficult to consider him a child. No other child in the history of Abel family had been so gifted. Speaking that far, Gilbert fell silent for a moment before opening his mouth again. As he was about to continue the conversation with himself, a knock at the door interrupted him. Albert and Willie had come to report about the clear magical ash that was found in the White Forest. Albert informed Gilbert that the magic crystal ash found in the White Forest had been appraised, and the corpse of the General Goblin had been identified. It could be confirmed that the monsters broke through the magical barrier and infiltrated from the Silent Forest into the White Forest. Only one issue remained: the identity of the person who had defeated the B-rank monster. However, Willie already had a person in mind after witnessing the white hunt that had recently happened. Gilbert also nodded, agreeing that the only possible answer was Sieg. Albert was surprised by this statement. While he believed Sieg to be a talented and lovely child, he did not think it was possible for Sieg to defeat a B-rank monster without using advanced magic. But the reason behind their suspicion had a little more evidence than just a mere speculation. When Theo had reported about the discovery of magic crystal ash in the forest, he had been hiding his injuries from Gilbert. This had not gone unnoticed by someone with as perceptive eyes as Willie. Moreover, they did not believe any monster in the White Forest was capable of injuring Theo, unless that monster happened to break in through the Silent Forest. Considering all the gathered information, it was also possible that Theo had protected Sieg from the monsters and had gotten injured in the process. But as long as there was even a slight chance that Sieg had been behind this incident, they could not let their guard down. They needed to erase all the traces in order to protect Sieg. Due to the magic crystal ash circulating in the market, there was a tale that was rather popular among the adventurers about a brave individual who managed to defeat a B-rank monster. But the First Night Order had already spread false information, claiming that the monster was defeated by the elite knights in order to deceive everyone. Moreover, the seller of the magic crystal ash was none other than Theo's friends, but thanks to his stubbornness, the source and information on how to obtain the magic crystal ash was not disclosed. Thanks to that, they were able to settle the situation peacefully. Not only that, the magic crystal ash had already been purchased for research purposes by the 3rd Magic Unit, which Willie belonged to. The 3rd Magic Unit was busy conducting an experiment on a new teleportation stone under national orders. Willie planned on using the materials to the very last drop, leaving no trace for anyone to follow. Gilbert expressed his thanks to his capable oldest son and his younger brother for taking care of the situation swiftly. As of now, Sieg possessed advanced magic and a superior magical nature, but he had not appeared in the public eye or become a topic of discussion, unlike Gelt. Thus, they needed to keep Sieg's uniqueness a secret from the Ministry of Magic and the Magic School, at least for the time being. Gilbert hoped for Sieg to live a life not bound by anything. That was both his and Leah's wish. though he hoped that Sieg would be a bit more well-behaved and not take reckless actions. Willie could not help but retort, feeling such a statement to be ironic, coming from his own brother who had done a fair share of reckless things in his youth, and even now. As Gilbert and Albert avoided his gaze, he wondered if it was the fate of all boys of the Abel family. Gilbert coughed lightly to hide his embarrassment and brought the conversation back on track. Now they knew that Sieg was no ordinary child. Not only was he smart, he also had incredible magic powers. The question remained on how he had managed to reach the White Forest in such a short amount of time. The only possible explanation he could think of was Sieg obtaining a transference stone from somewhere, but Willie did not share that opinion. Magic-infused stones were expensive and hard to come by. There was a higher possibility of Sieg having learned a teleportation spell or something similar. With the serious discussion coming to an end, Albert hesitated for a moment before addressing Gilbert. He sheepishly requested him to tell him about Sieg's white hunt, since he had not been present due to inspecting the magic barrier. Without a single word, Gilbert rummaged through his drawer and produced a projection stone with shining eyes, offering for Albert to watch it. He had been secretly taking pictures the entire time, and they were stored inside the projection stone. While Willie was exasperated by Gilbert buying expensive things for Sieg, Gilbert and Albert excitedly watched Sieg use his magic through the projection stone. They were so engrossed that they did not even notice Willie, who kept requesting for a spot to watch with them, but kept getting ignored. The next day, when Sieg used his appraisal eyes to inspect Willie, he was shocked by what he saw. Willie was ridiculously strong. Not only did he possess an abundance of advanced magical attributes and acquired skills, his level and magical power was totally off the charts. Although Sieg could not practice advanced magic right now, but he felt really lucky that someone like Willie was willing to teach him the basics of magic. Sieg felt pumped up, ready to give it his all. Though he did notice one hidden attribute called Friend of Spirits in Willie's status, but he did not have any idea as to what it entailed. While Sieg was using his appraisal eyes on Willie, Willie was also busy checking Sieg's abilities using his appraisal eyes. Sieg's fortune remained the same, and so did his magical attributes. Willie was surprised to make the latter discovery. He had suspected that Sieg had obtained advanced magic attributes or movement magic, but perhaps he had been overthinking a little. Willie found Sieg to be truly fascinating and amusing. Even though his magic attributes remained the same, Sieg's magic power had increased beyond his expectations. Willie was sure that someday Sieg would zoom past him with an unstoppable force. He could not wait to see that day. Haku came running to Sieg and showed him the branch he had picked from the top of the tree. Sieg praised Haku as he took the branch from his mouth. With Haku appearing, Willie's attention diverted from Sieg to him. Willie found Haku's existence interesting. He had never seen a black cat with such beautifully white fur before, but despite that, his eyes were telling him that the magical beast in front of him was truly a black cat. Not to mention, Haku possessed both lightning and ice magic attributes, granting him amazing potential. As Haku wagged his tail at being praised, Sieg heaved a sigh of relief. It seemed that the concealment skill was working properly on Haku as well. Willie noticed something strange about Haku. There was something strange regarding the flow of magical energy. When he analyzed Haku, he realized that there was a magic scar on Haku. Magic scars were lingering traces of magic when one was directed with advanced magic spells. As long as the magic scars remained, they would continue to inhibit the flow of magic power. The magic scars on Haku should have been healed by the healing magic, but apparently, the magic cast on Haku was a rather tricky one. Perhaps it was not accurate to call it a magic, because it was a curse that had been cast on him. Surprised, Sieg immediately checked Haku's condition with his appraisal eyes, and sure enough, the symptoms of curse were certainly there. When he had healed Haku, he had been so distracted by Haku's injuries that he had missed such a crucial detail. If only he had not used healing magic foolishly, such thoughts began to surface in Sieg's mind. However, Willie consoled him that it was not his fault. Even people with discerning eyes would often overlook hidden curses if they were not accustomed to them. Moreover, the curse cast on Haku was similar to harassment, something that only a malicious criminal would do. With a sinister smile, Willie took some of Haku's fur, fully intending to repay the people who had cursed Haku, though no one could tell what kind of devious plan he had in mind. With the furs stored safely, Willie revealed the cold reality to Sieg and Haku. As long as the curse remained, Haku would be unable to use any type of magic. Haku felt dejected upon hearing that. He wanted to be able to use magic and become stronger. The cure was indeed possible. With the divine magic spell known as Holy Purification, one was able to dispel curses of different magical hues. But unfortunately, Willie did not have the attribute for divine or holy magic. Thus, he was unable to do anything about Haku's curse. Sieg believed that he would be able to learn that spell in time, but he wanted to do something for Haku right now. No doubt, even if he set his mind to solely practicing holy magic, Sieg would be unable to learn the spell Holy Purification within a short period of time. This was a matter of great headache for Sieg, but he realized that he was not alone in this life. He had family he could rely on and did not have to carry everything alone. He remembered the existence of someone who was able to use holy magic and could help them. Sieg called out to Ariane and explained the whole situation regarding Haku to her, making her gasp in pity. Sieg had heard that Ariane was now capable of using holy magic, so he asked her if she could cure Haku with the Holy Purification Cell. Although Ariane wished she could help Haku, she simply lacked the ability to do so. Holy Purification was an advanced spell that required high magic power, and Ariane was unable to provide that much magic power. In the first place, even being able to use holy magic was unprecedented for many at her age. After thinking for a while, Ariane resolved herself and took out an egg-shaped object. It was a holy purification stone. When Lia was still alive, she had requested it from the magic state of Lin. At that time, she was only capable of using light magic. With the single-minded desire to cure her mother, she desperately struggled to master holy magic, but her powers fell short. By the time she had managed to acquire the Holy Purification Stone, Lia's condition had worsened to the point that it was even beyond magical means. And when Sieg was born, Lia's health had improved. As a result of everything, she had been unable to use the Holy Purification Stone and kept it with her as a reminder. If she used the Holy Purification Stone, Haku would definitely be rid of his curse. Despite a cure being found, Haku looked dejected. Sensing his distressed state of mind, Sieg asked what was wrong. The Holy Purification Stone was precious to Ariane, so Haku did not want her to lose it. Unaware of Haku's real thoughts, Ariane suspected it was because Haku hated her. Sieg quickly resolved that misunderstanding and explained Haku's thoughts to Ariane, prompting her to show a warm smile. Ariane apologized to Haku for doubting him at the beginning and thanked him for saving Sieg. Haku was Sieg's partner now, and she considered him to be her family. Instead of keeping mementos, she rather preferred to help her family. At Sieg's nod of encouragement, Haku approached Ariane and rubbed his face on her. Ariane once again expressed her gratitude to Haku, for it was him who had given her the courage to believe again. The Holy Purification Stone was activated and emitted a brilliant light. The light only grew brighter as it enveloped Haku completely. With a warm sensation covering Haku, the magic scars on his body faded away like sand. Ariane wondered if it had worked, but seeing Haku full of energy and running around in circle, it was apparent that the spell had worked its charm. Willie also confirmed that the flow of magic had returned to normal. Sieg thanked Ariane for everything she had done. Willie suggested Haku to give magic a try. He created some snow in his hand and instructed Haku to imitate him. Haku excitedly tapped his paws on the ground and circulated his magic, creating leaves of snow to fall to the ground. The white leaves were carried by the wind and settled on the ground, forming a pile and creating a beautiful sight reminiscent of the white forest. Delighted at using magic for the first time, Haku spun around in the snow excitedly. Sieg also started to make a snowman, making Ariane worried that he would catch a cold if he touched the snow with his bare hands. Willie laughed as he watched the kids play around in snow, although only 2 of them were playing and one was worried sick. Since everyone seemed to be having fun, he decided to postpone the magic lessons for tomorrow and let the kids enjoy themselves. Meanwhile, a mysterious girl sat at the top of the tree, twirling her hair as she looked at everyone having fun. She felt so excited that she could not wait until her turn to play with Sieg.